She texted, "I expect a $65,000 wedding ring." So I gave her a plastic one in front of everyone, and 48 hours later, she was begging to apologize as her life crumbled. I 32M, a man who'd always believed in simple love, honest intentions, and building a future through shared dreams rather than shallow expectations. I had a comfortable job in marketing. Not lavish, not glamorous, but steady. And after 3 years of dating a woman I genuinely believed was the one, I was ready to take the next step. We talked about marriage, kids, buying a house one day, and growing old together. It wasn't just a fantasy. It was a mutual plan we'd spoken about over countless late-night conversations and coffee-fueled weekend mornings. So when I finally decided to propose, I wanted it to be special, not flashy, not trendy, but meaningful. I had my late grandmother's engagement ring cleaned and appraised. An elegant vintage diamond ring worth around $8,000. Not the kind of ring that screamed for attention, but a ring that held a legacy. A lifetime of love etched in every angle. But that sentimental gesture meant absolutely nothing once I got the text that changed everything. I was sitting at my desk, finalizing a campaign proposal, when my phone buzzed with a message so cold and calculated it felt like a slap across the soul. "I expect a $65,000 wedding ring," she texted. No emoji, no fluff, just a demand. I remember staring at that number for a full minute. $65,000. For a ring. Not even an engagement ring, a wedding ring. My entire yearly salary barely scratched past that amount, and she expected me to pour all that into a chunk of metal and stone just to satisfy her ego. She followed up with photos from Cartier, a payment plan screenshot, and screenshots of her friends gushing over the ring she'd chosen. Apparently, she'd promised them she'd have it by Christmas. Her sister was getting married in the spring, and she couldn't be outdone. That last phrase lodged in my chest like a knife. Outdone. Suddenly, this wasn't about love or partnership. This was a social competition, a materialistic arms race with me as the unwilling sponsor. I took a deep breath and texted that we needed to talk in person. She refused. She insisted on finalizing things right there and then. I was flipping between disbelief and anger, trying to wrap my head around the woman I thought I knew turning into someone I didn't even recognize. She wasn't asking for a life together. She was demanding a luxury accessory to parade around as a trophy. I told her I needed time to think. Her response? More pressure. More screenshots. More financing options. It was as if she'd already purchased the fantasy in her head and was just waiting for me to pay the invoice. That's when it hit me like a sledgehammer. This wasn't about us anymore. This was about her image, her status, her social media clout. She hadn't fallen in love with me. She'd fallen in love with what I could represent online. The next few days, I watched her with new eyes. I noticed how every meal had to be Instagrammed, how every outing had to be filtered and hashtagged. She'd started quoting influencers more than real people. Her eyes glowed not with affection, but with obsession. An unrelenting need to outshine, outdo, outpost everyone around her. When she showed me her Pinterest board titled My Perfect Wedding, I felt like I was looking at a business blueprint, not a celebration of love. It was a checklist of status symbols, designer gowns, a venue that cost 6 months of my pay, imported flowers, and a champagne tower that belonged in a billionaire's dream, not a middle-class reality. That night, I sat in the dark staring at my grandmother's ring and wondered if I was making a mistake by holding onto a relationship so far removed from the values I held dear. The answer came swiftly. I texted her back 4 simple words. "You'll get what you deserve." The irony? She took that as a confirmation. She called me instantly, breathless with excitement, already talking about pickup dates and fittings. I told her I had a surprise planned, that she'd just have to wait. And that's when I put the wheels in motion. Over the next week, I documented everything. I took screenshots of her texts, downloaded her Pinterest boards, and secretly recorded a phone call where she explained to her friend that she deserved a ring worth more than most cars because a queen deserves a crown. Then I went to a dollar store. I picked the ugliest, most over-the-top plastic ring I could find, bright pink, with a diamond the size of a grape. It was glorious in its tacky perfection. She'd wanted a spectacle, and I planned to deliver one. Her birthday party was held at an upscale restaurant. She'd invited nearly 40 guests, most of whom were there not to celebrate her, but to witness what she'd been bragging about all week, her $65,000 dream ring. I let the evening unfold gracefully. Drinks, appetizers, toasts. And then, when the cake came out, I got down on one knee. The room went silent. Phones were raised. Smiles lit up faces. And then I pulled out the plastic ring. "You're getting exactly what you deserve," I said with a calmness that surprised even me. Her eyes flickered with confusion, then horror, then fury. She screamed, loud, called me cruel, accused me of public humiliation. And she was right. Everyone was watching. But she'd made our relationship a public display long before I did. I stood up and told the room the truth, that she'd demanded a $65,000 ring, that she'd rejected a family heirloom as cheap, and that her relationship goals were rooted in competition, not compassion. People were already filming. Some guests looked stunned. Others looked downright amused. She ran out, sobbing, leaving me with the bill for her extravagant dinner. Within hours, the videos were all over TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Someone even edited her screaming with dramatic music and text. "When he buys you a $1 ring instead of $65,000. The hashtag plastic ring revenge took off. The internet showed no mercy. And while some said I was petty, the majority backed me, applauding my honesty, my patience, and my epic mic drop. People shared their own stories about materialistic partners, exorbitant expectations, and what it meant to truly value love. But the story didn't end there. 48 hours later, she started calling. At first, angry voicemails full of accusations. That I'd ruined her life, made her a joke, destroyed her reputation. Then came the backpedaling, that she'd been joking about the ring price, that I'd overreacted, that it was all taken out of context. But as the internet backlash intensified, her tone shifted. By night 2, she was on my doorstep at 2 a.m., tears streaking down her face, looking more broken than I'd ever seen her. She told me she'd been fired from her job at a high-end boutique, that the brand didn't want to be associated with viral materialism. Her friends had gone radio silent. Even her sister had made a public statement distancing herself from the drama. She apologized again and again. She said she'd delete all her social media. Said she'd wear my grandmother's ring with pride. Said she'd change. But it was too late. Her words felt like a performance. A last-ditch attempt at relevance. Not remorse. She wasn't sorry she'd become that person. She was sorry that it backfired. I told her as much. And then I closed the door. Weeks passed. Then months. She tried to spin the narrative. Gave an interview claiming I'd manipulated her, that the internet had bullied her, that she was a victim of cyber harassment. But the public didn't buy it. People reposted her earlier videos, contrasted them with her poor me act, and her credibility crumbled even more. Her Instagram was deleted. Her LinkedIn vanished. She moved back in with her parents. The girl who lived for attention was now living in digital exile. 6 months later, I received a package. Inside was my grandmother's ring and a letter. A real one. Handwritten. And for the first time it felt genuine. She admitted her obsession with image, her toxic behavior, her addiction to validation. She'd been in therapy. She'd gotten a job at a nonprofit. She was trying to change. And she thanked me, not for the humiliation, but for the wake-up call. She said the plastic ring had cut deeper than any diamond ever could. It forced her to see who she'd become. I never responded, but I kept the letter, not as a token of regret, but as a reminder of the cost of losing yourself to appearances. And as for the ring, still with me, waiting, not for someone flashy or loud, but for someone who'll look at it and see a story, a legacy, a love that doesn't need a price tag. Because sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone isn't what they want, it's what they deserve. Even if it comes in a gaudy pink box. Hit that subscribe button for more stories that reveal the raw truth behind polished lies.